Atlantic Charter. What really happened? In August 1941, aboard the British warship HMS Prince of Wales, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill met in secret. Though the United States remained neutral at the time, Roosevelt was sympathetic to Churchill's vision and sought ways to support Britain. Together, they drafted the Atlantic Charter, a document outlining key principles for the post-war world: the right of nations to self-determination, the rejection of territorial expansion through force, free trade, and international cooperation. This document became the foundation for the future United Nations and helped define America's role in the world. Dark Atlantic Charter, when Roosevelt and Churchill failed to agree. First clash in the Newfoundland fog. August 1941. The misty waters off the coast of Newfoundland concealed the British warship HMS Prince of Wales, where a secret summit was set to take place between British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The world was in flames, Europe suffocated under Nazi control, and the British Empire faced relentless Luftwaffe bombings. Churchill arrived with a clear mission: to convince America to enter the war. Roosevelt was willing to help. He saw the British Empire as a key ally, but was constrained by the American public, which still clung to neutrality. He believed in democracy, but knew he had to proceed cautiously. Both men understood that the outcome of this meeting could decide the fate of the world. The atmosphere was tense, each of them envisioning a different post-war order. The fateful conversation. The ship rocked on the waves, and the dimly lit cabin was filled with Churchill's cigar smoke. The two men sat across from each other, the table between them a battleground of their thoughts.
Franklin, you must understand.
Churchill began firmly.
We cannot afford to wait. Every day that Britain stands alone weakens us. Hitler already controls Europe. If you don't join us now, it will be too late.
Roosevelt raised an eyebrow, nodding slightly.
I'm not blind, Winston. I know Hitler is a threat, but America cannot always be the world's savior. We have our own problems. Our economy is barely recovering from the Great Depression. How do I convince Congress that we must go to war?
How?
Churchill slammed his fist on the table.
Tell them the truth. Tell them that if you do nothing now, America will end up fighting alone. Do you really think Hitler will stop at Europe? No. By the time he turns on you, he will be too powerful to stop.
Roosevelt frowned.
And what do you want from me? To declare war based on speculation? I need more than just words, Winston.
You need evidence?
Churchill let out a bitter laugh.
Look at London. Look at our dead. Do you want to wait until the Germans sink another American ship? Or until they come to your doorstep?
Roosevelt rubbed his temples.
We must not rush into this. If America enters the war, it must be our decision, not because of Britain.
Your decision?
Churchill stood, taking a deep breath.
Don't you see what's happening? If you don't act, Hitler will win. And then you will have no choice left to make.
Roosevelt remained silent. The air between them was heavy as lead. Churchill knew he had lost. Slowly, he nodded, stubbed out his cigar, and walked out of the cabin. Third, a future in ruins. The meeting ended without an agreement. Roosevelt returned to Washington and intensified his policy of isolationism. When the attack on Pearl Harbor came in December 1941, the U.S. declared war on Japan, but struck a pragmatic deal with Hitler to divide spheres of influence. Europe fell into Nazi hands. Without American aid, Britain surrendered in 1943. The Soviet Union, after catastrophic losses, was forced to sign a peace treaty with Germany. By 1950, the world was controlled by three major blocs: Nazi-controlled Europe, the Japanese Empire in Asia, and an America torn apart by civil war. The fascist empire systematically manipulated American media, undermining democratic institutions and fueling chaos. Society fractured. Violence escalated. American democracy collapsed, torn apart by internal conflict. The fourth, the modern history, the empire of the strong. Fast forward to 2025. The world has long since forgotten the United Nations, and NATO never came into existence. The United States, led by Jonathan H. Reynolds, a former businessman and populist leader who rose to power on a wave of nationalist rhetoric and strong media control. In his third term, follows an extreme version of America First. Reynolds admires the strength of the German Empire and maintains close ties with its leaders. Free trade is a relic of the past. Economies are isolated, and smaller nations have been swallowed by larger powers. The world is divided among empires where strongmen rule. Churchill's vision of a free world never came to pass because, in 1941, Roosevelt refused to stand by his side. What would the world look like today if Roosevelt had chosen differently? Perhaps we would live in a world of the free rather than a world of the powerful.